Hello and welcome to episode 141 of my podcast all about knitting and crochet and my yarn shop here in Wiesbaden, Germany. I'm Kiko and today is May 2nd, 2022. And before I start with my usual content, I just wanted to let you know that at the end of this week, I'm going on holiday. So next Monday, there will be a special video that I filmed last week. It'll be very Gnome. And then the week after that, there will not be a video. So that will be my holiday. And I'm sorry, there will not be a video. But the Monday after that, I will show you all the things I knit and crocheted while I was on holiday. So that was just to let you know why there will not be a video in 2 weeks' time. But on to what I'm wearing. I am wearing a shawl and the pattern is called Afternoon Tea Wrap. And I got the yarn when I was in Hamburg. There's a yarn factory in Hamburg, and you can go and it's not a proper yarn shop. You don't get the finished yarn as balls of yarn or things like that. But they have loads and loads of cones with thin strands of yarn. You can get different materials, lots and lots of different colors, and then you can sort of create your own yarn. So for this yarn, I picked a turquoise, I think it was a linen silk mix, and then one was a mohair mix, and then the third strand was a silver glitter something. It's probably some polyester or something. But I chose those three, and then they wound a new cone for me with all the three strands running alongside each other. So you had to buy at least 200 grams, so that's what I bought for this shawl. And and I was looking at my Ravelry page before I started filming, and I realized I started knitting this April 7th, 2013, and I finished it in July 23rd, but 2015. So it took me more than 2 years to finish that shawl, but it doesn't matter. Since then, I had 7 years of wearing it, which is a lot more than 2 years, and I keep wearing it. So it doesn't matter how long the projects take. You usually get a lot longer to wear your finished objects than it took you to knit them. So this is basically this sort of wavy pattern that runs through the main body of the shawl. And these bits that look very, very lacy, that's because there's patterning on both rows. So it's not just pattern on the right side row and then you just purl back, but there's also patterning happening on the wrong side row. It means you have to concentrate a little more, but it also means you get this really, really pretty pattern. And then once you finish the main body of the shawl, you have the stitches at one end and you start it with a provisional cast on the other side. And then you cast on new stitches, and this is a sideways knitted on edge. That's knit sideways. And for one, I wanted to show you the shawl, but there's another reason I'm wearing it today, but I'll get to that a bit later. And like my main garment I'm wearing today is the Glacier Dress I knit. It's the pattern is by Jorge Locatelli. It's called Glacier Tunic, I think. At least she designed it to be a tunic or a long pullover, and I knit it into a dress. And I was collecting yarn for it for quite some time, and I used 5 different colors that were all opal yarns. So this was the series Colors in Love. Those were very light colors. Then the second one is Ice Cream. So on the sleeve it sort of looks a bit more like the yarn looked in socks. Then the third color was, I'm pretty sure it's Opal Abo yarn, but there was a rainforest yarn that looked very similar. And then the fourth color was, I think it was from the comedies. Could it be comedy? I'm not quite sure about this one, but the last one was out of the series Energy. I remember that very clearly. So as you can see, I just kept knitting. I just kept increasing the way the tunic was supposed to be increased. And then in the pattern, you knit those triangles to get a straight edge. Actually, you do that up here. So maybe when you get to this stripe, you would knit this triangle to get a straight edge. And I didn't do that. I just kept the point like this. Yeah, and I like it. So yeah, it's not too short here and it's not too long. The tip doesn't go to the floor. I was a bit afraid that might do it. It might do that, but it didn't. So yeah, that's my glacier dress and I just love it and I love wearing it. And so I thought I'll show you again today. Yeah, so much to what I'm wearing. Let's make sure I show you the right side of the shawl. Okay, and I'll come back to that later, promise. Okay, then on to finished objects. I have one finished object this week. It's also my only new cast on. So I cast something on, I finished something, and I didn't finish anything else, which I think is okay, can happen every now and then. So my finished object for last week, for today, is this, another gnome. And this is my April gnome. So as you probably know by now, Sarah Shearer has decided that 2022 was the year of gnomes, and everybody who knit one of her gnome patterns within 1 month can enter to win prizes and can just have a lot of fun with that. And so I decided to take part, and my goal is to actually knit a gnome every month because I just love knitting them. You can see another one up there. And so this is the gnome pun intended pattern, and the hat was inspired by the sorting hat of Harry Potter's, is what she says. Her name is Nora, and that was the only pattern of hers that I hadn't knit yet. I had bought them all because I just love them so much, but this was the only one I hadn't knit yet. I used DK weight yarn because I wanted this gnome to be a bit bigger. The first 3 gnomes I knit this year were fairly small. I think February wasn't that small, but January and March were really small gnomes, and I felt like knitting a bigger one this time round. And then I started knitting the hat, and you knit a lot of rounds, but because of all the pleats that you do, so you knit a bit and then you pull it tight to create one of those folds. So you knit and then it shrinks, and then you knit a bit and then it shrinks again. And then the hat was done, and I was like, this looks like a really small gnome. And I hadn't realized that the body is a lot bigger compared to the hat with this gnome than with many of the other gnomes. So with some of the gnomes, the hats are a lot bigger than the bodies, but with Nora it's different. So she did come out a nice size. I'm really happy with her. The color, I used leftover yarn again. So the yarn that I used for her hat, I knit a little dragon out of last year. That's the Sock Madness mascot. I want to knit another one this year because I gave that one away. I knit a pair of socks with color work out of this yarn, which was a bit crazy because there's already a lot of colors happening in this yarn, and then I combined it with neon yellow and neon green. It's a bit crazy, but I love them. I still wear them a lot. And I don't remember what I knit with the yarn that I knit the beard out of. But one of the funny things about Nora is that you knit the beard just as you would knit all the other beards, but then you unravel it to get those loops. And if you knit the beard and then unravel it straight away, you get straight loops. I did that with one of the other gnomes that you knit and unravel the beard. But she wrote, if you knit the beard and then make it wet, let it dry, and then unravel it, it'll get this look. So that's what I went for. And what I did is I actually I sewed the beard onto the gnome before I unraveled it. So I took a picture of the little square beard, which looks so funny. I'm sure there's a picture on Ravelry. I put one of the pictures on Ravelry, and I also posted one of the pictures on Instagram. So I posted that, I knit that, and I sent it to some of my friends saying, I think the beard's too short. And then I unraveled it and sent another picture saying, that's a lot better. Yeah, so this is Nora, my April gnome, the last pattern I had knit by Sarah Shearer. Originally, I wanted to knit another little gnome for May, but then she announced that there was going to be a mystery gnome for May, so this will be another mystery holiday gnome for me. I've knit several of her mysteries during my holidays when she just happened to plan her gnomes within my holiday. I always want to knit them as soon as the clues come out. So if that's during a holiday, that's what I do. Okay, my one finished object, my one new cast on for today. Then on to works in progress. And as there were no Sock Madness socks to be knit for me in last week, I could concentrate on all my old projects. By the way, I got one of the last 5 spots on my team. I'm on to round 4, and round 3 is officially ending tomorrow. So I'll be knitting Sock Madness socks during my holiday. I hope the pattern drops early enough for me to decide on which yarn to use before we leave. Otherwise, I will have to take 1 or 2 or 3 yarns to choose from as soon as the pattern drops. That's the plan. Okay, the oldest socks I'm working on are the cat socks for my nephew. The first part of the sock is just plain knitting, vanilla sock, and then I finished the 20 rounds that I did for the first sock, and I switched to the black yarn, and now I'm going to finish the sock in this black yarn, and once that's done, I will start, I will embroider eyes and a little face, and then these will actually be cat socks, because right now they're just blue socks, blue-grey socks. But I'm quite happy I finished this colourful part, and now I just need to finish the black rest of the sock. I'm pretty sure I can finish that during the holiday. Not quite sure I'll do the embroidery because I don't feel like that's something I want to do on a holiday, so I'll probably leave that for when I'm back. Then the second oldest sock is probably the Plaid Pocket sock that I'm knitting outside the competition for myself in the colors that I originally chose for this sock. So you can see it's a colorful yarn, so the pattern gets obscured a bit. So I was advised not to use those colors for the competition, but I decided that once I finished the competition socks and I was on to the next round to do the same pattern in my size, in my colors, because I really like the pattern. So I finished the pocket, and I think last time I showed you the heel was already done, and I just added a few rounds on the foot. I am not quite finished with the decreases. I'd hoped to finish them, but I didn't. So once these stitches are all gone, I'll be back to the original number of stitches, and then I just need to knit down in the pattern and then finish them in my size. Yeah, really looking forward to those. I love the colors. Think they look really funny. They do take a bit of concentration because of the color work, but the color work itself is pretty simple, and I don't have to check the pattern to be able to knit them. Not for the pattern itself. For the heel and pocket and stuff, of course I do, but once I've done the decreases, it'll be smooth knitting. Yeah, so that's a nice, I'll take that on holiday as well. I'm not quite sure which projects to take yet, because I always want to take them all, but I do knit on quite a few things, so I probably won't be able to take them all. So the next pair, or the last pair of socks that I'm knitting on are the that was the special bonus pattern that we got for Easter, and it wasn't a proper pattern, it was just a pattern for the crochet heel. And for the first sock, the only thing was missing was the colourful toe. So now you can see this is the same yarn crocheted in Tunisian crochet, and this is the same yarn knit into the toe. And I guess that the colour repeat. This is probably the same color as this. So yeah, it's quite a nice comparison. And I started the second sock, finished the cuff, and started crocheting the heel flap. And I stopped in the middle of the row, just in case you don't know what Tunisian crochet is. For Tunisian crochet, you're supposed to have a long needle, and it's supposed to be the same size throughout. So my needle isn't. It has this slightly wider bit with the name on it and the sizes on it. And the first sock, I used this tip, which is a 3mm hook, but it's so tight that I thought I'll try the other end, which is a 3.3mm hook. It's a Japanese needle, that's why we have this interesting size. And I think it's doesn't make a lot of a difference, but maybe it's just a tiny bit less tight, so I want to keep using this. And with Tunisian crochet, you go in between having lots and lots of loops to only having one loop, and then you pick up loops again, and then you go back to having one loop, and that's why the needle needs to be a bit longer and is supposed to be straight. So it's a bit difficult for me to get the stitches over this part of the needle, but as soon as I'm back to like here, it's easier. And yeah, this is what the second heel flap looks like right now. And yeah, and I'll keep going on that as well. So that's all the socks I'm working on at the moment, waiting for the next round of the sock madness to start. The next project out of the sock weight sock yarn is my little cowl loop thingy that I'm knitting to go with my pullover that I knit out of the same color but in a different weight yarn. So the pullover is a bit heavier, and yeah, right now all I have to do is knit 2 purl 2 until I think it's long enough to fold over, and then I'll do the same pattern again at the other end, but I will offset it so that these tips won't come on top of each other, but they will alternate. I think that should be fine. I think I probably have like half the cowl done. I'll have to put a long needle in and try it on, but because I want double the length, I can probably knit a bit further, and then yeah, this is what it's supposed to look like. Then fold it over, and then I'll do the second round of pattern. Yeah, that's the beautiful rainforest yarn that I'm knitting in the 4-ply, and the pullover was knit out of the 6-ply. Then I continued knitting on the baby jacket that I'm knitting, and I told you that I was knitting out of this subscription Opal Abo yarn, and it's the pattern battle where everybody uses the same color but knits a different pattern. And last time I showed you, I had done this side piece. This is a modularly knitted baby jacket. So I started with this side piece, and I started the sleeve because I was sort of in the same point in the color repeat, and I didn't want the side pieces to be the same. So instead of knitting the second side piece, I knit the sleeve, and guess what? Look where I ended up in the color progression. It's the same point again. So if I had started the next side piece, it would have looked the same again. So what I did is, instead of starting with the second side piece, I knit the first front. Yep, that's what I did. So as you can see, this is the same color as here, and then these are the same colors as here, and so on and so forth. But I did not knit the whole color repeat. So if we look on the sleeve, you can see I think I was somewhere like here when the front was done. So I would have had this bit to go into the second side piece, so the colors would end up at different places. So there's a little bit of a neckline here. This is the button band. I did cast off fairly loosely. I was a bit worried, but I hope that once the ribbing is in bottom and top, and I can wash and block it, it should block out. Pretty confident. Yeah, so this is the front, this is the back, this is the side that has all the dark colors that you can also see here. But as you can see, these stripes are a lot smaller than here. And on a normal sock, they'll be even smaller. So that's quite interesting. And then I started knitting the second side piece. And the fun thing that some people will probably not find really funny is that after I started knitting it, there was a knot in the yarn. I'm basically not very happy to have that happen, but especially as the color sequence was got mixed up. So I'm not worried about that at all, because it means that this side piece is a lot more different than I thought it would be, but I go for different, so I'm really happy. I'm glad I had this ball and not somebody who wants two socks that look the same. They would have been a bit frustrated because they would have had to unwind some of the yarn to get to the same point in the color progression. But it wasn't a lot that was repeated, it was just a little bit, and now I'm sort of back on track with the color repeat. So I'm sort of like here, and you can see this bit is wrong, so to say. But as I said, I don't mind. On the contrary, I'm really happy to have the colors come out differently in the second side piece. And once I finish the side piece, I'll do the sleeve and then the front, I guess, and then I'll do the backs and the ribbings, something like that. Yeah, but I'm really happy. Baby jacket is growing, and we'll see what it will look like in the end. Yeah, so that's that. Then I'm only knitting one proper garment at the moment, so I'm thinking of casting on a new pullover before I go on holiday. I'll let you know when I'm back. Yeah, but I have finally finished knitting the second sleeve, though I haven't really finished any of the sleeves yet, but I've knit them to the same length, and I'm keeping the stitches on some waste yarn because I want to knit colourful ribbings or something, edgings, into them once the rest of the jacket is finished. And I have continued knitting on the fronts and back, and this is where my first skein of yarn ended. That's when I started knitting the sleeves, and now I have knit this bit during the last week. This is all I have from my second skein of yarn, and I do want the jacket to be somewhat longer before I start the ribbing. I haven't really made up my mind yet how long I want the jacket to be. I may make it a little bit longer than in the pattern, just to have a nice fit on me. I checked the yardage for the contrast colors, and I think I have enough to knit the largest size, and I probably won't reach that length, so that should be okay. Yeah, so far still all black. Still looking forward to the time when I can start putting in all the neons. Yeah, that's that. Then I did a little bit of crochet, not a lot, but I am still working on these beautiful squares that I'm knitting, crocheting, and that I want to sew together for a little doily that I want to put on the stovetop I have here in my shop. And this is the only thing I crocheted last week. I added the 5th color to those 2 squares. Did not get around to doing that for those 5, but I thought it's quite funny to see that we have the main colors on the outside now. So they sort of look alike, but they are not, because they are the same, but they look so different because it's the other color on the outside. But yeah, just wanted to show you that. So these are actually the same, but these look alike because of the outer edge. Yeah, and I just really enjoy to see those things grow, and I really do enjoy the crocheting, and I find the pattern gets easier the further out you crochet. So the second half, even though the rounds are longer, I find the crocheting gets easier. So now I'm on the easy part. And I think this is a really nice project for the holidays, because these are little pieces that I work on. I don't have to carry a lot around. So I'm definitely taking this with me. and I'm pretty confident I'll be able to finish crocheting the pieces. If I get the sewing done or not, I don't know yet. We'll see about that. Yeah, so that's that. And then I continued crocheting on my Dinosaur Blanket Stomp. And I did not crochet all the 26 rounds that I should have done to catch up in crocheting my 10 rows a week. But I did more than 10. Didn't do 16. I think I crocheted somewhere around 13 or 14. But what I finally managed to do is I finished the first ball of yarn. Yay! So I actually stopped there because I didn't have the second one with me, and then decided not to continue, so I didn't have to bring the yarn back here because I already brought it home. So I thought I'll stop here, show you how far I got with one 150 gram ball of yarn. This is what's left of the second ball, and it's just that I always do the blue row first and then the green row. So that was finished first. And this is what the blanket looks like now. And I think it's quite obvious now that this is going to be a dinosaur. You can see that this plant thingy has grown. I'm onto the third stripe on the belly, and the second foot is almost done. So you can see those two toes. And once this toe is done, then the whole foot will be there and it'll be very nice. Yeah, I think that way you can see quite nicely. Yeah, I'm really happy with that. I've decided to take this on holiday. Even though it's a fairly big and heavy project, I will put it in my suitcase, I guess. And this will be my hotel crochet project. I won't carry it around a lot, I think. But in the evenings when we're in our room and the air conditioning is on, I can put this on my lap and I can just have it there and crochet on it, so I won't lose time, as I've lost time already due to sock madness. So that's the plan. So before I come to the knit along, I have revived a very, very old project that I started knitting July 15th, 2013. So when I looked at my Ravelry page and I realized that next year it'll be 10 years that I started this project, I decided I want this to be finished before the 10 years are up. And the project I'm talking about is my pink Vortex Shawl. And I'm knitting this out of this yarn. This is a pure cotton that my sister bought a long time ago in Japan. And all we could read on the ball band was pure cotton, 100% cotton, and it was, I think, 200 grams. It didn't give yardage, but it felt like several kilometers that I was winding on my ball winder when I wound the yarn back then. And I started knitting the Vortex Shawl. That's a free pattern on Ravelry. The pattern itself is quite simple but very beautiful. So you start in the middle, you knit a round shawl, and the way you put the increases, and there's also some decreases, I think, but that's how the pattern is formed. And it's not difficult, and the beginning was done fairly quickly, even though it's a really thin yarn. And then my sister put a rather loose but fairly simple lace edging on the end, because she knit the same project. Hers is in a purple solid color, and she had hers finished for years and years and years, and she keeps wearing it, and every summer when she wears it, I'm like, I want to finish mine. But as I like a challenge, I thought it'd be boring to just put a lace edging around with just some holes in it. I want something a little more interesting. So I looked around, and as I said, I started this July 15th, 2013, and in April 2013, I had started this shawl. So I'm not sure whether I had already finished the shawl. No, I finished it in 2015. So I was still knitting it, but I knew that this pattern had this knit on edge. So, oh yeah, I think I started the edge on the Vortex Shawl after I finished that, because that took 2 years, but I've been knitting on this for 9 years. So no idea when I started the edging, but I decided I wanted this knit on edge on my huge Vortex shawl that had, I think, 800 stitches when I stopped knitting the main part of the shawl. So it means I have to knit 1,600 rows to get the knitted edge on. I started that during a holiday, so I was probably in a very good mood and had lots of time, and I decided to do that. So I started, let me see. I picked up some stitches. I did a provisional cast on. It was probably from another project I had with me on holiday. And I started this knitted on edge like this. And because the yarn is a lot thinner and my needle is probably a bit bigger, it's very, very lacy. But I think you can see that the lace pattern sort of goes this direction, and my spirals go that way as well. So I thought it'd be a really good idea. And then once I get to block this, I can block out these little points or triangles. I'll show you again on this shawl. It's a bit easier to see. So blocked out, you get this sort of scalloped edge. Yeah, and I like that. And I wanted that on this shawl. Such a crazy idea. Sometimes I need people to tell me, don't do that. It'll take you 10 years to finish. But anyway, I started. And when I got home, I thought it'd be really nice to have some beads in this shawl because I just love beads in shawls. So this was the bit I knit on holiday. And as soon as I got home, I started adding beads just to the very edge. So I just put a bead on every selvage stitch that I do. And that's it. Nothing more. But still, it means it takes even longer to knit it on edge, because at the end of every other, at the beginning of every row or the end of every row, I put on a bead. And yeah, so I kept working on that and kept working on that. And as you can see, from one set of lace pattern in the main body to the next bit, that's 1/8 of the shawl. And I finished 2 of those. This is where the second. So I've done 1/4 of the edging, and then I put it down. I didn't pick it up for I don't know how many years. And now finally I've picked it up again, got the pattern out, worked out where I was, and I've added 1.5 pattern repeats of the edging. So that's 16 plus 8, so that's 24 rows. So I've eaten up 12 stitches. It's not a lot if you have 800. I had 800, so 1/4 is 200. So I finished those. So there's another 600 stitches I have to do, and I did 6 of those last night. I would probably knit on this for the next 10 years. I'm not sure I can finish that within the next 1.5 years to have it done before it's 10 years old. We'll see about that. This is definitely one of the projects I'm going to take with me on holiday. No idea how much knitting I will get done because I do have to concentrate. Maybe I can keep knitting on it until I know the pattern by heart, and that always makes things a lot quicker. Yeah. The other thing I might think about is actually printing the pattern, because I only have it on my phone so far, because I don't have. Oh, by the way, I never said this pattern was published in the Jane Austen magazine by I forgot the publisher, but don't think there's that many Jane Austen knitting pattern magazines out there. There are at least 2, and I think this was in the second one. And I bought it as a digital version. So I have a digital pattern, and I usually like to knit off of my phone so I don't have to print so many things. But it does mean that the phone's on all the time. I'll think about that later. And I'll let you know once I'm back from holiday how much knitting I actually got done on this shawl, in the hope that at some point I'll be able to actually wear it. Yeah, but that's not the last project. I have one more project. The knit along we're doing, the star cushion. I finished the second middle piece and actually started the first star point. So this is what it looks like. So I used 1/5 of those stitches and 1/5 of these stitches, and now I'm knitting decreases, and yeah, and as soon as all the stitches are gone, this tip will be done and I'll have 4 more to do. I really do want to take that on holiday as well. We'll see. I'll probably pack a few, I'll pack fewer clothes and more knitting. Okay, that was all. That was everything I knit and crocheted last week. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you'll enjoy the special one next week. And then I will see you again in 3 weeks' time. And see you then. Bye.